What is up, everybody, and welcome to FLW videos. So I actually reached out on Twitter asking people what they wanted to see next, and by a landslide it was Pokemon Defenders. The best gym defenders. What are they? What is the big shakeup? Basically, the reason for this is because Pokemon Go announced a battle rework system in regards to how the stats will work and what stat will be the more important one. So basically, Pokemon like Blissey are not going to be as important because HP has somewhat been nerfed, while defense on the other hand will receive somewhat of a buff. So basically, people are wanting to know about highly defensive Pokemon and which ones would tend to do very good in the gym. So of course, Chuckle came up over and over and over again because of its massive defensive stat. So I know Chuckle is definitely excited about that, but I do have to say, there is not a good chance that Chuckle will be good. We'll talk about it and what it would actually take to actually get there. So I guess, sorry Chuckle on this one. So other than that, the other main disclaimer is that typically normal type Pokemon have done well in the past, mostly because of having such a high HP stat when you're talking about Blissey, when you're talking about Chansey, Snorlax, a couple other ones as well. But without the HP factor being there, I personally do think that there will be a shakeup and a completely new meta from a gym defense perspective, which is nice because it's not going to be just a team of fighting type Pokemon to take down these gyms. We will get a ton of variety out of this, and I'm very excited to talk about it. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the list. So before we get started with this actual list, I just want to go ahead and say that they are not in any particular order. I'm sure that all of these Pokemon could end up being very good gym defenders. But let's go ahead and talk first about Chuckle and why I think it may or may not be a good gym defender. So if we take a look at Chuckle with a max CP of 300, a dual type of Bug and Rock, a lot of people have previously dismissed Chuckle. Personally, I think it's pretty funny to put in gyms, but other than that, it's just kind of been a meme. But basically, I would equate Chuckle to something probably like a Wobbuffet on the HP side, mostly because of its outrageous defensive stat. Go ahead and check that out. A defense stat of 396. The biggest issue is that stamina down at 40. But it's very possible with the HP/stamina rework that Pokemon Go decides to make basically a floor level and all Pokemon will be above that floor. With Chuckle having such a low stat, it is very possible that Chuckle could get raised, and that's probably the only saving grace that Chuckle would have. Other than that, if you are curious about the weaknesses for Chuckle, basically it's going to be a 2x weakness to Rock, Steel, and Water. So at least there are no 4x weaknesses. If you want to know about the ideal moveset, personally, from the defensive standpoint, Rock Throw and Rock Blast are going to be great. And if you want to go ahead and get a little bit more of some coverage, Struggle Bug and Rock Blast could be great options. Both will, of course, get the stat bonus. So beyond talking about Chuckle, there are some serious contenders for this list. The next one is Cloister, with a max CP of 2,475. Cloister is a dual type Pokemon of water and ice type. So let's go ahead and take a look at Cloister stats. A lot of people mentioned to me that they would love to see Cloister on the list for the top 10 buff Pokemon because of the defense stat. And while it barely missed just the regular top 10, it is a massive contender for the non-legendaries. Go ahead and check out that defense stat at 323, coming in at 6th. It has a decent attack stat as well. But basically the biggest thing holding it back was the stamina. If you are curious about the weaknesses, let's go ahead and check it out. You will see a weakness to Fighting, Rock, Grass, and Electric. Mainly the reason for Cloister not being as much of an option besides the HP is the fact that it is weak to Fighting. But like I said, if the rework ends up favoring away from the normal type Pokemon, it's very possible that Fighting will not be the ideal counter versus the new gym defenders. If you want to know what the ideal moveset is from a gym defense standpoint, you can use Ice, Shard, and Avalanche. If you don't have that, Frost Breath and Avalanche will do just fine. A TM, as far as a fast team is concerned, isn't too much of a change. Personally, for myself, I'd probably recommend Ice Shard and Avalanche. In at the third position is a Pokemon that I'm personally very excited about, something that I've always loved and can't wait for it to be useful in Pokemon Go. And that is Steelix with a max EP of 2,439. Steelix is a dual-type Pokemon of Steel and Ground typing. So actually, Steelix is considered like a third-tier Pokemon already in the gym defense system. So with this rework, it could theoretically get bumped up because of its stats. Go ahead and check that out. Once again, one of the main things holding it back is its stamina stat, ranked out at 115th, but if you check out that defense stat at 333, that is 4th best in Pokemon Go. If you are curious about the weaknesses, we can go ahead and take a look at it. We've got a ×2 weakness to fighting, ground, fire, and water. So once again, if we can pull off that fighting type, it is a very good option in the gym defense system. By the way, if you want to know the ideal moveset from a gym defending standpoint, let's go ahead and take a look at it. We've got Iron Tail and Crunch, and then Dragon Tail and Crunch. Personally, I think trying to trade the Dragon Tail Crunch is probably a good option, although you will get stab on the Iron Tail, so it's completely up to you. Both of them do get an A in regards to how good the moveset is. In at the number 2 spot is a Pokemon that so many people mentioned to me on previous videos, wishing that this Pokemon would become more viable, especially from a gym defense standpoint. And that is Umbreon with a max EP of 2,023. Umbreon is a pure dark type Pokemon. Let's go ahead and take a look at the stats. If you take a look at the stats, check out that defense stat at 250, ranked out at 16th. The biggest red flag in the past is of course that attack stat, and the stamina is actually pretty decent. So basically, Umbreon can do pretty good, but it's not going to deal out that much damage. But to be honest, I think Umbreon falls into that category of just a time-wasting Pokemon that's very dense. Because of that defense stat, it could end up being a much better gym defender. If we go ahead and take a look at the weaknesses, you will see a ×2 weakness to fighting, bug, and fairy. But for the most part, people don't tend to use bug type attackers or fairy type attackers, and then fighting, of course, is one of the most common. But hey, with this big shakeup, fighting type could end up not being the ideal counters. So let's go ahead and take a look at the ideal defensive moveset. For me personally, I would actually recommend Last Resort if you have one. You might as well go ahead and show it off. It will get more of like a neutral damage out of it. If you don't have that, definitely go for the Snarl Foul Play. Foul Play is actually a very good move. So despite Umbreon not having that great of an attack stat, it can still be pretty good as a gym defender. So we have one more to go. In at the first position is Agron with a max EP of 3,004. Agron is a dual type Pokemon of Steel and Rock type. Let's go ahead and take a look at those stats. If you check it out, the defense stat is massive, significantly better than the stamina. So this is a Pokemon previously dismissed in the past. It is theoretically going to get a buff from an attacking standpoint, but it could also get one from a defensive standpoint. Its attack stat is actually pretty good, almost ranking out at 200. If you are curious about the weaknesses for Agron, go ahead and check out that ×4 weakness to fighting and ground. Typically, a lot of people do not use ground type attackers, but as far as the fighting type goes, once again, if the HP stat is not as important as it has been in the past, fighting type could become irrelevant from taking down gyms, or at least not as big of a deal as what it has been in the past. But with that being said, it's time to go ahead and check out the moveset for Agron. You can go with Iron Tail Heavy Slam or Dragon Tail Heavy Slam. As far as the defensive side goes, of course on the attack it would be a little different. You definitely want to use the Stone Edge option. So yeah, those are some Pokemon that I personally think are going to be good defensively. You even have a couple of Pokemon that are going to be good on the offensive side. For instance, something like a Cloister is going to be a more well-rounded Pokemon along with Agron. But I guess I want to go ahead and end on a question of the day. And that is, what Pokemon are you looking forward to the most for defending gyms? Go ahead and let me know in the comments section below, and I will see you next time.
Hit me like a tidal wave.